hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
Teach, at some point you had a topic about zippers, like you wanted to talk about zippers and uniforms and stuff like that. And it's crazy because when you mentioned it, I was like, didn't somebody in the Navy like either like invent the zipper or like we were like super significant in like the beginning stages of the zipper, right? And I looked a little bit, right? But hey, for the listeners, y'all know damn well I ain't do no deep dive on this, man. But I ain't had time to. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, yo, zippers. Like, I know a strange thing about zipper. So yeah, I think we were like, and we'll, hey, for the listeners, y'all do the research. But like I think the Navy had a heavy imprint on like early initial testing of zippers and shit like that. It's crazy that happened. And I mean, we still ain't found the time to put them on our uniforms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how the hell we instrumental in creating zippers and then don't use it?
Yeah, no. But a lot of the new uniforms are going to zippers and all that stuff. Hey, Justin, look, so we're going to get right into it, right? We got a guest, AS1, Justin Kramer, right? AS1, right? I'm not wrong about that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, AS1. The reason why I got to double check, because AS it's a rare rate, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Hey, so by the time y'all hear this is probably going to be old news, but it was like, you know, Justin, have you seen that text message that like floating around about like saying that Force Houlihan came to somebody command and was like talking about a bunch of things, and it's like all these rumors, like it ain't like first classes, they're gonna be automatically eligible for chief if they go RDC. Did you see that text message?
Oh no, I didn't.
You see that text?
Is it floating around social media?
Yeah, it's over now.
Okay, I'm not on social media. I had to delete all that. I think Tish, you did the same thing.
Yeah,
I had to take a break for school.
For real. Tish came back though. Tish like the hardest co-host to like. She's like the hardest co-host to produce, because it's like, hey, take my social media tag off all videos and don't tag me because I'm not on social media. Then like 3 weeks later,
back it was
on
a few
social
months.
media with
it was
a different name,
whole new name.
A few months and a few months and like pod years is 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm back on social media, but I'm not back on social media. So I don't post. I'm just like there to get what I need to get, talk to who I need to talk to, and then I'm off. So don't nobody be in my DMs, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Was it happening like that before?
Yeah, I be getting DMs, you know.
Is it from like sellers that need help?
Well, I'm cool with those. I'm cool with those DMs. I'm cool with DMs of people that I know. But people, just because they are like on your friends list or whatever, y'all follow each other, they think that like y'all have some type of personal connection. And that's what social media is for, right?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, that's what social media is for, but that's not what I use it for. So,
hey, I heard you in San Diego. What's up?
Right. And then you see people and they just swear you know them, and I'm like, I don't know you. So it's just a little bit weird, you know. I think I'm just entering my more introverted era. So.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, you know me, I'm an introvert, right? And I get friend requests from people that listen to the pod. You know, and I always like, why do you want to be my friend? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why can't you just follow the pod? Hey, and for some of y'all that listen to the pod, like, I don't mind it, but like I said, I question it all the time. Like, what? Like, how did I make you want to be friends with me? You know what I mean? And but I don't never deny it though. Like,
and I think what it is like nowadays, because of social media. When someone like follows someone, like even celebrities, like they want to know all about their life, like to build that connection. And that connection makes them, you know, follow you more, like your music more, because they know who you are outside of, you know, your music or whatever talent it is that you have. But that can also be detrimental though. Like I've seen it go both ways, where it's good, it's great. And then when it's bad, it's horrible. And cyber bullies and all that stuff. I ain't got time for that. I like fight too much.
I think with the Navy, right, especially with like chiefs, like we so close in theory, right, that people just be like, yo, I'm gonna just friend request dude, you know? But I remember, and I usually check to see if we got like friends in common or like how I know this person. The reason why I'm so like for the people that friend requested me and like because they listen to the pod, the reason why I'm so like cautious about this now is that I don't know if you remember this, Teach, but like a year and a half ago, like something weird happened with like one of my pod friends or like something like that. Something weird happened. Like it was like this exchange and it was super weird. But if people don't know, I've built relationships with people just at this point based off the pod. So I'm not a stranger to connecting with somebody that way. You know, it's just that me being who I am, like as much of an introvert as I am is weird. And the crazy thing is, just for the listeners, if you ever see me somewhere in public, I always talk about this. I think I probably talked about, I'm great in public spaces. Like, you know, talk to people, you know, I could work the room. But I was telling somebody, like, if you go to that party, right? That's what I was saying, Justin. I'm like, if you look at me the first 20 minutes at the engagement or the event, I'm amazing, you know? But if you find me, right? If you could find me like 30 minutes into it, I'm going to be somewhere drifted off on my own, by myself, wandering, looking out of it, man.
Just like, at capacity.
Yeah.
Like I'm socially spent. Yes.
Yeah. Like I need to go recharge. I need to go in my car for 40 minutes. It's so good because I notice it in myself. Like here I go being weird again. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the corner. It's time for me to leave. You know, I've exhausted all my, you know, social energy. You know what I'm saying? But I have that 20 minutes though, man, it's amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Legendary 20 minutes, man.
Do you do the goodbye where you kind of just slip out Irish? The back, or do you do the Irish goodbye? Irish, like, or do you go around and say goodbye to everybody and like, hey?
I'm not an announce. So it's two different scenarios, right? It's me and when I'm with my wife, right? The scenario with me is I'm not an announce the goodbye kind of person. I'm out, right? So I hope nobody ever takes offense from that. I'm going. I'm leaving. With my wife, like we gotta stop and talk. And now we like when I'm with my wife and we saying bye to people, you know, it's like, all right, you had the one couple, we talked to them for 20 minutes. The next couple, we talked to them for like 30 minutes. That last couple, we like damn near worked our way to each other's cars, still talking. You know what I mean? So we start out at the social event, then we at the door for about 20 minutes, then we outside the house, then we at the car, fuck around and hit a bar. Hey man, let's just grab another drink before we get a bar. Like it's like, damn, like why? Because my wife don't know how to say goodbye to people. She just, you know,
Where's she from?
She from Philly, like me. She a Pisces. Pisces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she okay. Sorry for the people that ain't in the zodiac, y'all, but yeah, she Pisces. You probably know.
Pisces too.
Yeah, you probably suffer from some of the same symptoms. You know what I mean?
Symptoms.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, before we get into like more about you, Justin, one thing that I want to talk about, right? We was talking about it like pre-pod, and I keep hearing it, and I really want to kind of bring it up. Is the term perception is reality, right? And just for the listeners, you know, I'm not knocking nobody that use that term. I'm not a fan of it. You know what I mean? I heard it used actually at a DRB, man.
That's where you usually hear it.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to shut this down because this is this person's like principles that they go off or their thoughts. But I just I just don't believe in that, you know? So I'm sitting there like boiling, and maybe, you know, but I just feel like me shutting that down is like me putting my ways on other people when I know there's some people that do kind of believe in that. And it's not a unique phrase. Like a lot of people say it, but I just don't agree, man. Perception is not reality. Reality is reality.
Right. Yeah, I don't like that either. I've mostly heard it used at DRB, XOY, and JP. And it's usually like frat type cases. But yeah, it's just like, and especially like right now, perception could be so many different things. And it's based off of your background. It can be based off you being messy. It can be based off you being a pessimist versus an optimist type of person. Like it's based on so much. And so to say that it's reality, it may be that person's reality, but that doesn't make it real. And I think the perception is reality thing is what gives people fuel to be on the bullshit that they be on. Like it gives them a right to be able to try to tell someone that they're doing something wrong, or it's used in a well, I can't really get you, so I'm just going to say perception is reality. Like, it's like a catch-all. Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like some Freddy Krueger shit. You know, like if you die in your dream, you die in real life.
Then you die in real life.
Oh man,
I ain't do it.
I'd be done.
Like I didn't do it. Like that's some bullshit. You know.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about is for leadership, right? People, take care of your leadership. Take care of your command leadership, man. Like, you know, leadership always trying to take care of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to return a favor. You know, I was at this retirement ceremony, like I was saying, like I said, I was somewhere and I was good for like 20 minutes. But like in those, like in that, after that 20, and like I said, this where like things go bad for me after the 20. I'm eating, right? Something I probably shouldn't eat anyway, but I'm eating it was 2 Chick-fil-A nuggets left, right? So they said leaders eat last, so I waited. But when I saw that it was down to like the last 9 Chick-fil-A nuggets and I ain't eat one in a while, I squoze in the line a little bit so I could get one. So I get in the line, I grab, it's 2 Chick-fil-A nuggets left, I grab a nugget. Don't you know I choked on that nugget, Tish? I choked on a Chick-fil-A nugget, like it went down the wrong hole, the wrong pipe or whatever. Yeah. And nobody came to my rescue. Nobody, right? And I guess they just didn't know how to. Like, how do you?
Maybe their perception was that you weren't choking.
The reality was, you know, like, how do you help? Yeah, I was done. I had to. It was so bad, right? Now this where perception really kind of. This where perception
Justin
is
killed
like,
me with that one.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Yeah. So this where perception is really fucked up, right? So nobody helped me. Right. And that's probably because I'm command leadership. Right. That's probably why nobody helped me. Like he command leadership. He got it. Right. Now, here's where I'm fucked up as command leadership. Don't you know I left? Like I ran out of there so I could choke somewhere not in front of people. Like, yo, I'm like, I gotta go choke. I gotta go choke where my people can't see me.
Let me go die alone.
To, like, jump on the chair, right? Aren't you supposed to like jump on a chair if you can't give yourself a hind leg maneuver?
Yeah,
see,
nobody's helping you.
I pay attention during CPR class.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, you sure do.
Would you jump on a chair over a chicken nugget from?
If I couldn't breathe, yeah.
You're right.
But I know I've seen people choke and have the Heimlich maneuver. Like everything comes up when you do that. So that would have been quite embarrassing.
Yeah, they just saw all my cheat meals. And then I'm trying to decently choke till I get outside. Like I'm trying to choke like an SEL.
Exactly.
Yeah, till I get outside and I just, you know, as soon as I got outside, it was gone. Like I was this easy. But before then, another thing I want to shout out real quick was I got an email from, I forgot who I got it from, maybe like my Navy HR or something. But it was a financial readiness touchpoint training for having a kid. And it's this NAV admin from maybe 3 years ago or something like that. That was announcing back when CMTs were GMTs. Here we go. Here you go. A little history, right? Back when CMTs were GMTs.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, like a year ago. It was announcing financial readiness touchpoint training for when you have a kid. And it was like, hey, you almost overdue. Like you should have got this financial readiness touchpoint training done. I must have missed that in the NAV admin, but everybody that got a kid or just had a kid, just know it's a mandatory training that you got to do that. Honestly, you should probably do it early because it's a lot of, you know, all the shit they talk about is like things that I experienced in real time. You know what I mean? So look that up.
I went to a Fleet and Family course, me and my wife, when we had our first son, and it was, I forget the name of it. Yes, that was it. There goes the camera. Yes. But we learned a lot of info because we were new to being a parent. And I think it's absolutely, I don't know if it should be required, but you know, there's nothing wrong with going to it and getting information about how much money you should probably set aside for diapers and this and that and that. And so it really opened our eyes up, and then we kind of like budgeted for the baby. And yeah, it was important.
How long ago was that?
2020. So we had our son in April of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of these trainings should be required. You know, that's what I think. I know they all can't, but some of them should, because a lot of times when we give people the option, I think people don't want to go to that stuff, man. You know, and some of this stuff is like so valuable.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, at least go, like show up and then make a decision if you want to stay or not when you see what kind of information they got.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on that. Hey, for the listeners, may we wait no longer. Like I said, we are joined by AS1 Justin Kramer. And just straight off the bat, did you join the Navy to be an AS?
Before the Navy, I loved working on cars. So I graduated high school in New Jersey, and we used to go to Philly to go street race out there. And we loved working on our cars. We'd have like the Honda Civics and Integras, and we would go to the junkyard and get parts. And then, so like that translated over. My mom was an air traffic controller, and she was like, you should pick something in aviation. But she was like, make sure you don't go undesignated. Make sure you pick a rate. And so I was like flipping through everything, and like AS had a cool logo. And they also, it looked like it was like kind of like what I was already doing, like working on cars and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is cool. It was between that and AO. And she's like, you don't want to be an AO. I was like, oh. And she's like, don't pick AO. And I didn't know what it was. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to pick AS then. So that's how it turned out to be.
So it was just like listening to mom and, stuff like that.
Kind of like what I like to do already. It kind of like translate. I just wanted to be aviation because I had grown up around the Navy and around Navy aviation. So I knew I wanted to do some rate in aviation.
Okay. So you knew early in life too that you wanted to be in the Navy.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So I did the whole college thing right out of high school. Both my parents were still active duty then. And college didn't really work out. And all my friends were getting in trouble. They were getting arrested. They ended up dead. And my parents had all these nice things. They had new cars. They had a nice house. And I was like, all right, I think I need to do this. I think I need to join the Navy and get out of here.
That's what attracted me to the Navy. Nice cars, man. I was living with my aunt and uncle, and they friends all had like Benzes and BMWs, and she had a Jaguar and a Benz, and he had a business. I was like, oh man, yeah, that's the place to go, man. The route that I'm going, man, it's gonna take a long time to get this, man. Yeah. So AS, what is the job duties of an AS?
Oh man, so we do scheduled and unscheduled maintenance on ground support equipment. So if you don't know what ground support equipment, it's everything that supports the squadrons, air wings on them doing maintenance on the aircrafts. So if you see the tractors on the flight deck, the tow bars, the crash crane, the fire trucks, it's our job to maintain that gear in order for normal operations to happen on the flight deck or the carrier, any kind of platform that supports an air wing.
Oh, so it's literally what you wanted to do, like the exact thing you wanted to do.
So like diesel, I have apprenticeships in like diesel mechanics, hydraulics, tire and wheel, pneumatics, cryogenics, welding. It's a fun job for sure. Yeah.
When you say apprenticeships, a lot of hard work. About US, Matt?
Yes. Yes, I logged my hours and I have my certificates, but like also being qualified for, I'm going on 20 years now. I have qualifications that I've been working on this gear and managing maintenance in different platforms and commands.
Yeah. See, Teach, that's the beauty of having a guest that like listens to the pod because they know inside jokes. Oh, man. They know the inside jokes, right? Hey, right. So it's funny because before I joined the Navy, I was also I was I was accepted to an apprenticeship program to be an electrician. So mine is kind of like yours, where I knew exactly what I was going to be, and then my aunt, my uncle, kind of talked me through that decision making process too. So I had some help. So now you go into the Navy, right? I see the Blue Angels thing in the background. Yeah, and we talked earlier, so I don't gotta like the element of surprise. Like we talked on the phone the other day, so I know you did a tour, with the Blue Angels, and I would assume that's a pretty unique tour compared to any other tour you did, right? What's some of the highlights of that?
So it's a personal, like, I don't know how to say it. Like, I grew up, my mom was an air traffic controller, so I grew up in a tower watching the Blue Angels since I was a little kid. And, she always said, like, you can join the Navy, you can be a Blue Angel one day. And I joined the Navy and, I worked hard and I did an IA tour right after the Nimitz. I went to shore duty and I was really bored on shore duty. And they were like, we need people to go IA. And I volunteered for that. When I got back, my mom called me and she's like, there's a naval message that came out saying they need ASs on the Blue Angels. So I immediately put in a package and I went out to El Centro to essentially like work with them for a week, and they get to know me and we do interviews and stuff. And then I got picked up to the team. And it's such a unique experience, especially for ASs, because we don't work on jets. We don't even touch jets. If an AS is touching a jet, they're probably going to go to mast. So, and here I am. I just put on first class when I got to the squadron, and now I'm sitting in a jet and they're teaching me how to turn it. And if you like, what turning a jet is, turning on the engines and like dialing in communications, flight controls, everything. That way, when the pilot comes out, they jump in and they're like, we got it. And that's it. And in the fleet, they don't do that. The pilot does all that stuff, but the pilots trust us as the crew chiefs at the Blue Angels to do all that for them. That's the way all they have to do is go fly.
Wow.
And so here I am as an AS, brand new AS1, sitting in this $25 million jet, trying to learn how to do this stuff. And it was such an amazing experience because I'm literally like fanboying. I was a little kid. And now I'm actually wearing the uniform and then going to shows. And it was so cool because then you get to talk to kids and you're like, they want to see you and they want your autograph and they want to like hear your experience. And it was even cooler because you go to all these towns that don't have the military, like towns in the Midwest. So there's no bases around. So they see us in these tight flight suits or, these uniforms with aviators on and like, that's what the U.S. Navy is right there. But they want to hear it. They're like, oh, what's your name? Like, oh, I'm AS1 Kramer. And like, I was on the USS Nimitz. I did 2, tours. I did 2 deployments on there. I was a flight deck shooter. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you for your service. Like, that was cool. Like, and every sailor has a story like that. Every sailor has a unique story that they can tell the rest of the public. And I think that was the best experience for me, is to be able to do the community outreach and talk to the public and tell them like, this is what the U.S. did, or this is what we do at the U.S. Navy. It's a big recruiting tool. But to go to the hospitals and meet the kids there, and then go to schools and talk to kids and get them hyped up about it, and go to the different air shows, that was a lot of fun too. Blue Angels is sea duty. So you tour nonstop from March to November. You're in a different city every weekend. That was also pretty cool too.
So are you considered a Blue Angel? Like, is that what you are if you work there, or is it just like literally the pilot?
Once a Blue Angel, always a Blue Angel.
Okay. I ain't even going to get too deep into that. Like, that's
so,
like, that's like I am Batman. That's kind of like, I am Batman.
I mean, so the pilots are the pilots, and we are the support team is the crew chiefs, and then all the divisional shops and everything, but we're all Blue Angels.
Okay. All right.
So we go through a process where we earn our crest. And then once you put that crest on, you are a Blue Angel, and then you do the shows.
Damn, that's cool as hell, man.
That
Actually,
is.
I really didn't know that, but it's a lot that I don't know. Hey, so when you stationed with the Blue Angels, and this is like to all of us, this like an elite team, like almost like Olympians of or the Globetrotters of flying, right? And they might not like. I don't know if that's like a compliment or not, but it's like an elite, an elite team of pilots. Like, what's the margin of error? Like, what's the margin for error over there? Like doing your job or something like that? Is it like very small? Like you make one mistake, you got to go type stuff?
Well, first off, the perception is that it's elite, but we are only the best of who applied. And I say that is because there's probably a lot of better ASs and better pilots and people that are out in the fleet doing their job, the real job of U.S. Navy sailors. But I just happened to apply at that time and got accepted. So we like to say we're the best who applied for that job. The margin of error it's small. The demo, it has to be respected. I lost one of my pilots after I left the team. He had a mishap and he crashed in Millington, Tennessee, I believe. Captain Cooch, U.S. Marine Corps. But the process, the training is so rigorous that we are accountable for our actions, and we're also accountable for each other's actions, where the smallest little mistakes, we own up to it and we make sure that we correct it on spot or for the next training evolution. That way it doesn't happen again. Because, especially in aviation, like little mistakes can lead up to big mistakes and then mishaps happen. So, and we have our processes and we kind of, play games with it and everything. So, and it's all for a good cause, but yeah, it's the margin of error. It has to be respected. You have to be accountable for actions, but that's why it's such a unique team. Like everybody wants to be there and everybody tries 100% all the time to get better. And, you strive for perfection, but you'll reach greatness while you're trying to do that.
Yeah. Do you have an example of something you experienced where it was something that may have seemed relatively small, but it did or could have had a big impact, just to give an example?
I have a lot of examples. Yeah, I mean, so like, I actually got written up for this. I got a counseling shit for it, which it's fine. But like my pilot, we did a cross country flight to Hawaii, and the cockpits have to be FOD free. And so we do the cross country flight, and then they'll debrief, and then they'll do a practice flight where they kind of like fly around and then do their like coordinates of the area and kind of do like landmarks to kind of like get a view of the area. So we have to like decross country the plane. So like take the maps out and stuff. Well, my pilot had stuffed a water bottle in between the seat. And part of my inspection was to like make sure there's no FOD in the cockpit. Well, during his flight, it had came out, and it's a water bottle, but it could absolutely be hazardous. It could have, if they're flying in a tight formation, like that could have distracted them and been a big deal. It didn't come out. I ended up finding it after it, and then I like said something to QA about it. I was pretty much like ratted on myself, but that I didn't find it the inspection before that. And then they were like, "Hey, we got to write you up for this." And I was like, "All right." I owned up to it. Like I missed it the first time and I found it the second time, but I owned up to it that I didn't see it. So, but it could absolutely FOD in the cockpit's a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm not going to ask about a normal day because I'd imagine that it's a unique command. So a normal day might be a little, different, but what's a heavy day? Like what's like the heaviest day as a Blue Angel?
Oh, so there's two like scenarios for this. So when you first check into the command, you're a newbie. So you have to get your crest. You cannot do air shows unless you have your crest. So you have 120, it might have changed. It's been like 10 years, but you have 120 days to get your crest, which requires a PQS and meet and greets. So with that being said, at least our shop, you had to work day check and night check. And when you're in the shop, you cannot sit down. Because if there's time to sit down, that means there's time for you to be working on your quals.
Yeah.
So that was hard. And I remember our LPO was like, if you don't come to work every day and question why you're here, like, I don't know if I should be here. This is tough. Yeah. Like, then you're not trying hard enough. And sure enough, me and my boy were like, dude, I don't know. I think I should go back to the ship or something. But like, but we did it. We got through it. We leaned on each other and we got through it. And that's like the building process to get it checked. Now, when we go to the show sites, Ocean City, Maryland was probably the hardest time, the hardest shifts. And I'm not even going to talk about myself. I'm going to talk about the crew because they work their tails off. And me being an AS, I'm not good with jets. Like they work on jets out in the fleet and then they come to the squadron. So, but it happened to me, my jet, the leading edge flaps, you have the wing and then you have the leading edge flap. that kind of like distributes the airfoil over top the wing. Well, it ripped off and it ended up landing in some dude's like farmyard. So they ended up having to retrieve it. And after something like that happens, they had to do one-time inspections on all the leading edge flaps that we had. I think it was in the fleet. They came out with a naval message, but we had 7 jets in Ocean City, Maryland. Mm-hmm. So we had to take all these leading edge flaps off, strip the paint off, NDI them, which is a non-destructive inspection. So we had to get the inspector out there. He had to inspect it, approve it, put them back on, and then test it. And then the pilots had to test it in the air.
Yeah.
So we worked like 24 hours straight. So we did a show that happened. And then we worked all the way to the next day to get 7 planes or 6 planes up in the show the very next day.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's a light day? What's like a really easy day?
A light day is where it rains and they cancel the air show. But it's not fun though, because it was a light day because the jets didn't fly. So you just had to go out there and look at it. But then like people come from far away to see us fly. Mm-hmm. And then they don't get to see it. So it's kind of disappointing. So it's a light day, but it's kind of like, dang, man, like you go there to like, you want to see these people like pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You talked about a first class saying like, hey, you should question every day if you should be here. Can you choose to leave if you wanted to?
Oh, yes. There's been people that left. They're just like, this isn't for me. This isn't my thing. And that's good. I'm glad that they do that because they would have been a liability. And I would say the same thing about the Bonhomme Richard too with the fire. There's people that are just not meant to do certain things, and that's okay. And I'd rather them say something beforehand than like try to do it and then their heart not be in it and then end up, causing a mishap or something like that.
Yeah. What about like competing for evals and stuff like that? So I'm gonna ask that in 2 different ways. The first way is amongst the command, right? So being competitive throughout your command for evals and stuff like that. But then the second part of this is like when it comes to like Chief Selection Board, Navy-wide, AS competitive, is being a Blue Angel competitive Navy-wide. How does that look on your record? Stuff like that. So first, the command, how do you compete at the command? And then second, Big Navy.
At the Blue Angels specifically?
Yeah.
It's hard. I had a really hard time because one, I just put on first class when I got there. I missed first class by like 0.07. And then my YN1, one of my best friends, he was like, you went IA. I think you get like 2 points on your exam just for going IA. And then like, boom, they put me in first class right there. So I was a new first class. And then it was considered out of rate because I was not doing AS things at a squadron. Like ASs don't go to squadrons.
Yeah.
So now I was out of rate competing against like every EP sailor in Navy aviation at one command. So like if you weren't fully qualified, did community service and was doing school, you weren't even considered for EP. Like you had to do and then have like your command collaterals on top of doing air shows.
Yeah. So I was about to say, how do you do that?
It was tough, and they have some of the best workhorses there that do it all, and then go home and have a family. I was single at the time, so I was great. I'm a first class. I'm single. I'm good. I'll just do air shows. It ended
ain't
up
a lot of lazy
me,
people, huh?
Oh no,
ain't a lot of lazy people.
No.
That sounds crazy.
No.
I don't know how I could as a young sailor. I don't know how I could function at a command without the lazy people.
The bottom piece.
Yeah, I need the people that ain't really pushing, man.
So it was, and you know what? I got a MP my second year, and I told my master, I was like, what can I do to get an EP? Because I was a hard charger. I was that breakout EP sailor going all the way up to E5 and then making E6. He was like, start a first class association. So I was like, all right, cool. And so I like looked up how to do it. I reached out to my friends that had been like cabinet positions, wrote up bylaws, and we started one. And I ended up being a vice president and
so
did a couple of events
and became the vice president.
Yeah, I didn't want to be president. I didn't want to be president because I was always on the road. Out of like 32 shows out of the year, I did like 30. I was never home. And that was my goal. Cause I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this again. Mm-hmm. Like I want to do as many shows as possible. Yeah. And so I was like, and I knew like I wanted to help somebody else out. Like like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like I got a cabinet position. We did a couple of events before I left the team. And I could say like, hey, I started a first class association at the Blue Angels. Like made me feel good. But it was hard for me because I didn't get an LPO spot. My Mo, right before I went to the Blue Angels, he was like, I want you to go, but realize that you should be going to a ship doing a QA position in LPO at sea. So you're going to be behind your peers.
Yeah.
And I was like, at the time I just found out. So I was like, oh, yes, sir. I'll do whatever it takes, but it did hurt me. It did hurt me. And I'm okay with that because I had a unique experience that I could talk about for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that. Like,
yeah. And that's kind of how you measure it.
Now for the Navy, it's against like, if I was at a ship, like, it's just the same thing. You need to do events, which you need to have like mess involvement. If it's a cabinet position, have a couple of collateral duties. I'm really big on having just one collateral duty and just being really good at it. Anything more than that, I think is a little bit much. And then being fully qualled, and leading, especially as a first class, like have it not so much like being a sailor of the year. I feel like having your junior sailors being junior sailor of the year and blue jacket of the year, I think that's more important than a first class being sailor of the year. Now, for the board purposes, I don't know what they look at because I've made board for almost 10 years now and I haven't made chief. So who knows? But I'm cool with that. Like, we talked about it probably like I've been to 4 commands in the last 3 years. Like I've had to accept that I probably won't make chief and I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to throttle back. I'm still going to be the same AS1 that I was since I put it on.
Yeah. Now, let's go back. Because you said you did an IA tour before the Blue Angels, right? Mm-hmm. Where was that at?
It was in Bahrain. And I got really lucky. I got somewhat okay. I got lucky because my friends, we all volunteered and they were kind of like, we were standing in line and they're like, you're going to go this place. You're going to go this place. And my buddy got detainee ops in Afghanistan. And I was like, damn, I want to do that. And then they gave me Bahrain. And I had known people in Bahrain and they had these nice flats out there, like fully furnished and they were partying. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have so much fun. Well, there's a base out there. It's called Isa Air Base, and it's at the very southern tip of Bahrain. And I was a plank owner out there. And we got there, and the whole group was like, oh, we can't wait to get our flat. Well, no. Our job was to make a base. So we showed up to this airfield, and there was 10-man tents. So I slept in a tent for an entire year. And we had to set up other tents and we had to lay fiber optic cable. And like that's not, it's like rock out there. So we were out there with pickaxes, like laying down wires. And
so it's like hot as hell out there.
It's so hot out there. And we were embedded with the Army, like an Army battery unit. They did like Patriot missiles, which was cool. But yeah, it was like a real IA tour. We just have people are like, oh, you went to Bahrain. Like, we got to go to Bahrain on the weekends, which is cool. But if anybody knows what Isa is, they're like, oh no, that place sucks.
My mind was blown in Bahrain, man. Like when I went there the first time, my mind was it was all like beautiful women. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I can't say that anymore, I guess. I feel like I almost got in trouble at work saying beautiful women, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But when I was a junior sailor, man, some really good looking women out here, man. And I was, were you single in Bahrain?
I was married at the time to my ex-wife. So, yeah.
Did you get divorced in Bahrain?
No, I got divorced. It's funny story, but I got divorced like as soon as I found out I got picked up to the Blue Angels. Like she wanted a divorce. It's like before I could even be like, I got accepted. It was like in motion, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm good.
Was it the Navy? I don't want people from the Navy to feel like I'm blaming the Navy, but was it like your time and like things that had to do with like your naval career that caused her to want to leave, or was it something else?
I think it was, well, she was prior Navy and she had got out on medical disability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were just we were really good friends with each other. And I feel like just because you're good friends with somebody doesn't mean you have to marry them. Like we had a great time with each other, but like I was so focused on the Navy and she had other issues and health conditions. And I think we just realized that we weren't meant for each other. So it just didn't work out.
Yeah, marriage is one of the
hardest
things to do. You know, and it's funny because whenever people say this, people think like that person is like relationship is on the brink of divorce. It's not. But marriage, you know, especially when you start to insert like children in the mix and stuff like that, but it's one of the hardest things in the world to do. Like people underestimate that like so much because we love each other, we thrive and we having fun, you know, it's good, but it's so much compromise. It's just so much consideration. It's so much of every single thing. You know what I mean? So you definitely need a partner that like, first of all, you could expose like your whole entire self to, right? But then like somebody that you trust to like be able to hold on to all of that stuff. But then somebody also that you respect enough and trust and believe in enough to like be there with you when things are at their worst, right? Because that's the hardest y'all could be on each other is when things at their worst, whether that's for you or for that person, right?
Yeah.
And that could be anything. That could be like you finding out like you got cancer, but you don't want anybody else to know, right? But then you find out your partner, like your spouse or whoever, like went and told people or something like that. And now you're dealing with that, right? So you definitely want to make sure you got somebody that you could depend on.
Yeah.
That shit is hard, man. You know,
it is.
It is.
Yeah, and
marriage is hard work.
Yeah, and a lot of us have multiple. Like when I say a lot for the listeners, I'm basing it off my experience. A lot of people, as I come up through the Navy, multiple marriages. You know what I mean? So yeah. One of my goals was to have one. You know, and right now we kicking. We good. You know, we good. You know, who knows? But we good. We in love. Hey, so anything from the IA, did you ever like get active during that IA in Bahrain? What was it, like some security ops or something?
No, it was airfield operations and then just building a base up.
Okay.
It was cool. I got to do some cool stuff. I worked with the SEAL teams, the Army Rangers out there. Did some stuff with them. I linked up with the CB. So like, we had all these tents and they have HVACs, like the air conditioning. Air conditioning is a big deal. It's like I have an EPA certification being an AS, and my collateral duty was HVAC. So I linked up with the CBs and they taught me how to like maintain these air conditioning units. So like I was the guy on that base. Like when somebody's AC went out, they're like, oh, call AS1. And I was getting energy drinks, food, everything. Cause it's so hot out there. But I had my little Gator golf cart and I would just roll up and fix the AC unit and it'd be good to go. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
you're like God.
Yeah, that's what I say. Anybody at any command with a Gator is a god, man. Like a Gator is like elite level, like working. Like you pull up in the Gator, it's time to get it, man. Hey, so you did the Nimitz before. Nimitz was your first tour, right?
It was my first tour duty, and I you sit in the room in A school and you get to pick orders, and I was like, I want to go to a ship. Like my first tour duty, I want to work. My like dream job was to work on the flight deck. And so I picked the Nimitz in San Diego. I didn't know anything about San Diego, and they dropped me off at 32nd Street. And I was like, I'm here for the Nimitz. They're like, you're at the wrong base, buddy. And so I had to like figure out a way. This is before Uber. So I had to like call a cab and then go to North Island. And they're like, oh, the Nimitz isn't even in port. So I was like, I don't know where to go. And so I went back to 32nd Street, ended up getting a TPU room until they pulled in. And then.
So when you got there, you didn't know that the ship wasn't going to be there?
No. They're like, it might be back, but like, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to go. I kind of just figured it out on my own, you know?
Damn.
But that was like my first experience to the Navy.
Yeah. That's that's young sailor life, Teach. I used to walk around base, like in Norfolk, the base, the naval station, Norfolk, just walking, no cars, just fucking aimlessly walking places. Like people say I saw you yesterday, man. Yeah, I was walking, you know what I mean? But that's a hell of a 3-command stretch, man. Like as a Navy. So when I joined the Navy, I wanted to go to an aircraft carrier, right? I didn't know about cruisers, destroyers, frigates, none of that. It was aircraft carriers. I saw aircraft carriers in movies, all that. I don't think I saw a movie about like a cruiser, you know? And if it was a Nicolas Cage movie, I definitely ain't watch it, you know, about the Indianapolis. So I definitely didn't see that one. So I never saw movies with destroyers, cruisers. It was always carriers. So it was like, hey, I want to go to one of those ships that carry, you know, the jets and the planes and stuff. So that's just a hell of a stretch to start out on a carrier, because that's a dream command for some people, right? We look at that, right? That's bright lights. Then to go to another command and build a base, right? To build a base. And that's in Bahrain, which is another, in my opinion, dream command. Then to go with the Blue Angels, man. In my opinion, that's a hell of a 3-command stretch. Now, from joining to the Blue Angels, up to that point, what's your worst experience in the Navy?
Up to the Blue Angels?
Yeah, up to and through the end of that Blue Angels tour, what would you have as your worst experience?
I think it was, so when I was in Bahrain, they had the Day of Rage out there, and they started protesting. It was like religious protests. I don't remember. The king was one. It was like Shiite or Sunni, and then like the people protesting were like the other half of that. And I saw, so they have like the Bahrain police and then the King's police, and the King's police rolled up and started open firing on these protesters. And I used to go train jujitsu out in town, and probably in neighborhoods I shouldn't have been to, but I was like this arrogant blue belt, like, oh, I'm going to go. Nobody can mess with me. So I would just wander aimlessly through these towns and then go to this jujitsu gym and go train. Well, I got a like cell phone text, like all hands recall right now. And I'm like, oh, dang, like something's popping off. And I had already kind of like the social political climate was already like tense. Because of what happened in Egypt before that. And then, you know, I go back and then I see like people getting shot at by these police officers and stuff. So that was, it wasn't at me, but I knew it kind of like seeing people protest and then getting shot at for like, this is something, a basic right that we have here in America, and people are getting shot and killed for that. In other countries, that was real life right there. That was a pretty bad experience that I had to go through.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm looking forward. It's a documentary coming out about the Taliban when they took back over, and like when all the women lost their rights. It's a documentary from the point of view of like 4 women or something that was like brave enough to make a documentary.
Oh wow!
And and I'm looking forward to that when it comes out. I want to see, you know, a lot of what they talk about, because I think about that all the time, because these are rights that all our people. We just had a woman run for president. You know what I mean? And then over there, like they can't even have a job. You know, they can't even walk around without an escort. You know, without a male escort. It's almost like damn, what's that? The Handmaid's Tale almost. It's almost like the Handmaid's Tale. You know what I'm saying? So all right, so you go from the Blue Angels to where?
So Blue Angels, I tried to get A school, which is in Pensacola, Florida, same place Blue Angels is at. And so I roll it, and a lot of the people, that's what they do. So Blue Angels is sea duty, and then they roll over to A school for shore duty, so they can stay in the same geographical location to keep their house. So I roll over there, and the master chief is like, you need to go to a ship. And I'm like, I understand that, but like I'm up for shore duty now. So and I would love to be an instructor. And he was like, it's not going to happen. You're going to a ship. And I'm like, all right. My buddy I went to A school with he was a chief at the sea school in San Diego. And he had called me up and he's like, hey man, we have a first class billet here at sea school. He was like, we would love to have you over here. Like one of my teammates I was on the team with went there as a C school instructor. And so they kind of like recruited me to go be a C school instructor. So I was like, bet, San Diego, I'm going back to San Diego. I'll be an instructor. Yes, I'll take it. And so I went back to San Diego and C school over at CNETU.
So that's pretty cool tour, right? No crazy holiday.
Best shore duty ever. Best shore duty ever.
Yeah, right. So what's next? Hey man, I kind of envy your career, man, so far, man. It sounds like you had some good places, at least some good places to be.
I've been blessed, absolutely. Yeah, so, I knew my time was up, and I was going back to the fleet. But I was looking forward to it because I hadn't picked up chief yet. I got a breakout EP at the schoolhouse, like 4 of 60 something first classes.
Yeah.
And I told my detailer, he was like, you need to go to a ship if you're going to make chief. And I was like, Bona Machard's in Japan right now. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm ready. And because I've been in like fantasy Navy, I was at the Blue Angels and then Sea School. Like that's not the real fleet. That's not the real fleet. So I had to like mentally prepare myself to be back in the real fleet.
Yeah, but you were not prepared for the BHR, right?
I mean, I don't know. So like I said, send it, let's go. I thought I was going to Japan. Yeah. And then I get the orders and they're coming back to San Diego to go in the yards.
Yeah.
So then like I check in, I get married, and we buy a house and everything. So there's like a lot going on in my life. And then I get to my division in the first class. There's only one first class taking care of like 36 sailors, and he's retiring. Like he's on his way out the door. So he's like, it's yours now. Didn't give me any turnover or anything. So I was like, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I was LPO at the schoolhouse. I was like, I know this isn't the schoolhouse, but I know how to lead sailors. I was like, I got this. And so, I did my thing. But we worked AS's work out of North Island. There's a rework facility out there. So we take all of our gear off the ship, and then we go to North Island and we strip it down, repaint it, and then put all new parts on it, and then load it back on the ship for the next deployment. So I was working at North Island, and then after work, I would go back to the ship in the yards to like work on my quals, because they were like, you have to get damage control and 3M. And I was like, 3M, great. And mind you, my last SEA duty was Blue Angels. So like all the other first classes there were either back-to-back SEA duty from Japan, or this was their third SEA duty that they've been on. So they were like just requalling on everything. I had to learn everything again. So that was difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what year is this?
This was 2019.
Okay.
So this was spring of 2019.
Yeah, because I'm framing it. The reason why we framing it like that, Tish, because what year did the BHR burn down?
2020.
Yeah. So you were there, right?
July 12th, 2020. I was off going duty section.
Yeah. So you were on the ship that day. And that's kind of, so before we go there to that day, anything noteworthy from the time you checked in up until that day? Any stories, anything there up until that? I'm assuming like life is normal. You on a carrier, everything normal, up until that day, I guess. Are there something, any adversity or anything you had to deal with?
I mean, just like I call them TEDs. I call them typical enlisted dudes. I wasn't used to these TEDs, because I was so used to being around a culture where everybody wanted to be there and everybody was enthusiastic to come to work. And then I get to the fleet and he's like, oh man, like, what are you doing this weekend? But I'm just going to go sit in my barracks. Like, why didn't you shave? Like, I didn't feel like it this morning. just random stuff where like, dang, now I got to stop what I'm doing and address this problem, whatever it is, XYZ, But that was different for me because I wasn't used to having to deal with those kind of disciplinary actions. I did notice something like leading up to it, and my time on the Nimitz, even though I worked on the the flight deck, I would always involve myself in my repair locker. And like, you'll hear from like squadron personnel, they're like, I don't have to do GQ because they have to concentrate on getting jets off the ship. So they don't do GQ drills. And if they do, it's like flight deck stuff. Or like people that work the flight deck, they're on night check or whatever, like, oh, I'll just go to my rack for GQ. But I would always go to my locker because like, dude, if the ship's getting bombed or is on fire, like, I want to be in the repair locker. I don't want to be in my rack. Like, that just didn't make sense to me. So I would always, after my shift, when they had drills, I would go take a position in the locker. And we were tight, like 1 Alpha on the Nimitz. It was back aft, starboard side. Like we were like a group. Like we worked together. Like it was great. And I learned a lot. And I got to the BHR and it was just weird. Like the drills, like nobody was at the drills. Like the people that they had on the fire watch build, like they were either off watch or getting ready for watch or on watch. So then like every drill we had, they were just like piecing people together. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that was weird to me. Like I just thought there was like set positions all the time. You train with the same people every time, but it was just like scattered everywhere. We were constantly failing the drills. And to me, like I understand we got to do pier sweepers. We got to do, CDO, 8 o'clock reports, but it's like, but if we're failing this stuff, we need to keep drilling, or we need to like do some more training where people like actually understand this, or do like one-on-one something. It was just weird to me. And being in the yards, it's already an unsafe like environment. But I was like, I just don't feel like, something was weird. I didn't feel safe going to work every day. And I would go, so it was like November. So after chief results, November. So first class evals come out. I take a QA position on board. And so now I'm working on the ship full time. So I'm doing OD watch. I'm qualled out. I'm working on my D set, not deck it, D set.
Yeah.
So, so lean up. And that's when COVID started.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now, between the Nimitz and the BHR, right? Do you think the difference is the time that you were there, like the time in life that you were there? Or do you think it just was generally the command that was different?
That's a great question, because the Nimitz, we did back-to-back deployments. So we were already a tight-knit group from deployment and then the workups, where the BHR, that crew that came from Japan, they were gone. Like they had left. So now you're turning over the ship to a new crew that might not have experience in the yards. Mm-hmm. And then it's just a new crew in general. So the chemistry isn't there anyway. So I think that's what a lot of it was. They hadn't had the reps yet to have chemistry, and it was new accession sailors, and a lot of the sailors put on second class very quickly, and now we're assuming leadership roles that they might have not been prepared for in the yards, or so it's a different beast. In the yards, it's different. It's stressful. Yeah. You're not doing your job.
Yeah. So you off going duty, right? Did y'all already turn over? I forgot what time of day this was. Did y'all do turnover already?
Yeah, we did turnover. I stood OD watch. So I woke up, we did turnover, and then I went and changed because I would play basketball after work, but I was taking my son to the beach. I just had my son in April, so it was July. So we're taking him to the beach for the first time. And I went and changed. And I was walking down the pier and I heard the bells ring. And I was with my buddy, and we were right at the ECP, and I saw smoke. And fires happen and everything. And I thought it was like a welding fire. And my chief comes running up and he's like, hey, they need help on the boat. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go help out. And my buddy was like, deuces, man, have a good weekend. And he left. So, so he made chief. So he picked up chief. So, but I went on there, and there was like a fire. There was like a legit fire going on. People were dressing out, and I was like, oh damn, I need to go dress out. I was in civilian clothes, so I went to my shop, which was back aft, and I put on, my uniform was in my rack up forward, but it was completely smoked out. So like, I'm not going to my berthing. So I went back aft and just put on somebody's FRVs, which were like entirely too small. I looked like a Blue Angel pilot. They were like skin tight on me. But I was like, I showed up and I was like, hey, I'm ready. I'm a team leader. Put me on a host team. Let's go. It's time to get after it.
That's incredible, man. And that's like really what happens when shit hits the fan, right? Like, hey, we gonna figure this out. You know what I mean? So, so let's just get into it, man. So you were actively attacking this casualty, right? Do you remember this full stop, or is some hazy kind of things?
So, yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good memory. I wrote a lot of it down as part of my therapy and stuff. So the actual casualty, the fire, we couldn't get access to it. There was problems with the water. There was issues with fed fire. It was just kind of a cluster as far as getting down there and putting water on the fire. So I had a team. We descended down to the lower V, not the lower V, the upper V. But they were having issues with the hoses and the water and stuff. So we came back up, and then that's when they announced that evacuation of the ship. Like, it was getting out of control. It started coming up into the upper V of the ship. And so like the lower V is where all the vehicles for the Marines are at. And then the upper V is kind of like the staging area to go into the well deck. And so we were all assembled in the hangar bay, which is up one more deck. After they gave the evacuation notice, one of the scene leaders like, hey, I need you to go make sure there's nobody else in the berthing. So I was like, all right. And I was like, you four coming with me. And we ended up going into the ship through the galley. And I knew my berthing was right below the galley. And so we went there. We went to the chief's berthing. Nobody's there. We went to our berthing. And of course, one of my sailors is in the berthing on his iPhone with headphones in. He's like, wow, what's up, AS1? And I'm like, we're like fully fitted out with air on. He's like, oh, I thought that was a drill. And I'm like, bro, it's Sunday. They don't run drills on Sunday. Like, the ship's on fire. And he's like, wow, I thought it was getting kind of smoky in here. And I'm like, bro, we got to go now. They just evacuated the ship. Like, he had no idea. And
that's crazy.
I pointed at two of the sailors. Mind you, I don't know who these sailors are. Like, they got the masks on without the SCBA, the regulator on. So all I see is just eyes. I'm like, you two take him back to the hangar bay. And so now we keep going forward. It was just three of us. And so it was me and one other sailor. And so we're trekking through and we go all the way up forward to the ship, and it's getting hot now. So like the fire was right below us and it's like hot. It's completely smoked out. So now you can't see anything. And we ended up breaking into this, the MWR space, I think, all the way up forward by the gym. And there was this girl in there, and I think she was either passed out or she was sleeping. She didn't know what was going on. I was like, ship's on fire. We got to go right now. And she stepped out onto the hallway, and I mind you, like, you couldn't see anything. And she started freaking out, and she didn't want to leave. And it's like, we have to go. And my biggest mistake is I didn't know where the EEBDs were at, which that's pretty much the whole purpose of those things is the quick. And I didn't know where they're at because we were just out of the yards and they were all scattered all over the place. And I was like, breathe into your shirt and like stay low. So I had my one sailor that was with me. They were in front, and then she was in the middle, and then I was like pushing them through, and you couldn't see anything. Then damn timer starts going off. So my light and the mask was like orange, red. So I knew like, yeah, we got to get out of here. It's like the floor's bubbling, like the paint and everything, like the damn light covers are melting. So I was like, we got to go fast. So I'm like pushing them through. We get to the galley, and I'm like, I hope to God we don't fall, because they had taken all the tables out. So there was like these stubs of metal everywhere. And I was like, if we trip on one of these things, we're going to be done. Right before we get into the galley, one of the sailors on my investigation team was coming back. So he had dropped off my sailor and was coming back to go in. And I grabbed him and I was like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to go find more people. I was like, no, I was like, you are not going by yourself. And I was like, we got to get out of here now. And I like grabbed him and we formed the train. And so we went to starboard side again to the wind tunnel. And then we stopped by the repair locker right there. And I knew we were like, they were having issues with the bottles because they were going through bottles so fast. They only had like one recharging station. So like I grabbed a bunch of bottles and tried to bring them with me on the packs. And we made it out of there. And like, we were like the last people on the ship. So I was like, we got to go. We were out of air, take my regulator off, but it was like smoked out. We get to the bridge or what do you call it? The elevator and then the brow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the brow.
And then that's when the explosion went off. And it like,
Damn.
it like, it scared me. It like rocked my chest and it knocked the people forward, like the people in front of me forward, and we all fell. I was like, we got to get out of here. Like, I was just happy we were outside at this point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But apparently, like, smoke is just a bunch of unexpended, like, fire. So, like, when it accumulates together, eventually the heat will make it combust. And I'm sure Damon could talk more about that if he was here. But
Yeah.
because I'm an aviation guy, I am not a DC. So if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, like,
Yeah,
please
I ain't
don't,
fact-checking.
dude. I am not a DC.
I heard you start getting deep, like, hey, smoke is unexpended
like,
fire. And I'm like,
it's
all right,
unexpended.
Right.
So
Right.
when it's supposed to vent, and it didn't vent in the galley we were just at, and it exploded and it knocked us, it rocked us. And then, but I was happy we were outside because I knew we were close to safety. So we get down there and I was like, whew, I was like, that was intense. I like debriefed that, made sure I did a muster with all the people that I went down there with, the girl, I put eyes on them and I was like, all right, we're good. I got some Gatorade. And then of course we're sitting there drinking our Gatorade. And this chief is like, hey, we're still fighting COVID, practice social distancing. And I was like, and I was like,
Cheap
come on, Chief.
Chief.
Bless his heart.
I hope that chief is listening right now.
Chief said, hey, I'm a chief. I got a job to do.
At
Let
all
me go correct
times.
some sailors.
In the middle
So
of
I
a
was
fucking
like-
fire. We are
So-
still practicing social distancing,
Yeah,
ship
like,
day.
hey man, we ain't playing. It don't matter. So how long were you on SCBA, on the SCBA inside the ship for? Like 45 minutes or something?
It was, I would say I would think I'm in pretty good shape. So and I knew that if I start panicking, I'm going to start breathing heavy.
Mhm.
But we tracked a long time. And like those sailors on my investigation team, they killed it. They absolutely killed it. Like staying with me and listening to me. And there was one time they looked at me and they were like waiting for instructions. I was like, oh, dang. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the leader. Like they
Mhm.
they were relying on me. And that was a big deal to me that really stuck with me because they were like depending on me. They're like their lives. And so,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, it's game time. Like, this is what we train for. And so, I would say like 45 minutes. And then we ran out of air and I was just trying to like not breathe in all that, metal and asbestos, whatever's on that ship that was burning. I got asthma now. So
I was about to ask if you have any
we're
health
gonna get into
issues.
that. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that in a second. You ain't have enough time to feel fear, right? That's what I was gonna ask you. You ain't have enough time to feel fear in the moment, huh?
Yeah. So that's like one thing that we cover in therapy. They're like, what were you feeling at that time? Can you label your feelings? I was like, no. I was like, I wasn't feeling anything at one point. And there's a couple of other stories that are like more intense than that, that kind of stick with me more. But it's like, there's a point where you just have to like accept that you might die and be okay with that. And just kind of like, you were trained, like rely on your training. And like, if you get scared or if you tense up and you fear it, like it's response. I don't know. Like, I can't put a feeling to it. I can't label that. I wasn't scared. I was just like, I might die, and I just have to accept that. And I don't know what's going to happen right now.
Yeah. So I can't help. I was going to say, I can't help but think that the Nimitz being as amazing as it was when it come to DC, then you going on an IA tour, and then you going to the Blue Angels being as excellent as it was as far as standards and stuff. I can't help but think like that perfect mix of commands is kind of what cooked, and then your mom and like a lot of that stuff kind of cooked into you being prepared for that moment right there. Like, it's just, you were the perfect person for that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it kind of comes with it. Not everybody, you know, and I know it was other people who did what they had to do too, but they also probably got some histories that built them up for that moment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't just walk into that moment saving. I think you said you saved 2 lives. You know, all of that. You just don't walk into that moment like that, making sure you're keeping your composure and stuff. Yeah, we trained to this, but it's also a little bit more, right? And you've trained your whole career up to that moment, right? So you don't just walk into that moment like that, but also you don't walk out of that moment the same, right? And I think that's what Teach was kind of connecting the conversation to, as far as like, now, like, it was a place I wanted to go first, but since it kind of came up about health, what happens for you now? Like, what's the health fallout as far as physical, mental health, and all types of stuff? It's another place I want to go back, but let's kind of go there first.
Yeah, I mean, and so I had to pull myself out eventually, because I stayed at that scene for pretty much the whole time that fire was burning. You know, the ship the configuration of the ship changed so much that a lot of the people and even the firefighters didn't know how to navigate through that ship. So like, I knew it because I had been on there so many times. So I was continuing to go in with my sailors that I trusted. And, you know, after that explosion, I probably should have tapped out and been evaluated, but I kept going in. I ended up suffering another head injury in there and messing up my knee and PTSD. And eventually, my SMO at the time, that he did jujitsu as well. He's like, "You don't look good, man." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I don't feel good." I wasn't sleeping. I was, hallucinating and having nightmares and stuff. And so eventually I went limb-due. And this was like 6 months afterwards. So I was going on the ship every single day for work after that. Just like, hey, I'm gonna finish the job until this thing's decommissioned or goes elsewhere. But I went limb-due, and that took up a majority of my time after that. And then I told you previously, like, I've been to 4 commands in the last 3 years. Like, my first limb-due period, I mean, this was February of 21. So that we were still in COVID. I wasn't even seen by a provider my first 6 months of limb-due. And they were like, "Hey, your limb-due period's up." And I was like, I haven't even been seen yet. Like,
yeah.
And, they ended up sending me, my second limb-due period sent me to a vestibule clinic because I lost my balance. I couldn't balance. So they did a TBI evaluation, getting treated for PTSD. And so like after my second, I had to go back to sea. And I was like, "Please don't send me to a ship." I was like, "I'm not ready to go back to a ship yet." And they sent me to a Van Opdet, which is expeditionary squadrons up in Whidbey Island.
Yeah.
And supporting them. But, a majority of my day was appointments. And I feel like a lot of them didn't understand that. They didn't understand what I went through. And I felt like an outsider because I was like, I'm trying to like get back to where I was before, like when I was on the Blue Angels and, that hard charging AS1. And, I was doing all these appointments all the time, and it took away from my work.
Yeah. So, but they knew you were on the BHR, and they knew you were there attacking the fire, right? They knew, they had that information, right? And they still didn't understand what you was going through?
I don't think so. I don't know.
When you say that they didn't understand, what do you mean by that? Like, how were they displaying that they didn't understand? Was it just like you trying to talk to them, or was they not giving you the leeway to go to your appointments the way that you needed to?
No, so they definitely and even my current command, they're fully supportive of me going to my appointments. And that was one thing that I appreciate. But I feel like I got this sense of well, what can you do for me now? You're here now, you're fit for full duty. So, you need to get qualified and do your job. And it's that's cool. And I'm going to do that. But I still have appointments, which is going to take me away from work. And so that was hard. And at that time I started setting boundaries too, where I wasn't going to stay after work, these long hours and stuff. And because I needed to focus on myself. And, I think, to going back to what we said, if you want to stand out from your peers, you got to put in the hours. You got to work long hours and do all these things. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I was kind of burned out and I wanted to focus on myself.
Let's go back for a second to pretty much just to paint the picture, from you stepping off the ship now, explosion happens, but now command life still happens, right? So what we see on our side is a news story, right? We see a news story. We also see a news story about a beloved ship, that we lost, it burned down. You know what I'm saying? But from what I know, and then we also see somebody accused for this, right? So that happens too. And from what I know, life on a ship, words travel, rumors spread, the climate is affected by these kind of things. So just from your POV, how was all of that stuff? The rumor mill, the command climate, and all that stuff.
I mean, they tried to keep everything pretty hush hush, because we knew a lot of it was speculation. Obviously there's going to be rumors, and we'd be in the berthing, joking about whatever would happen or who did it, but we knew that whoever they accused, they had the right of due process, through the UCMJ and the naval court system. So regardless of who said what, they still had to have a trial before anything was official. Yeah. So there's going to be rumors and stuff like that, but we kind of were briefed and told that hey, whatever you hear, that's not the official word, because there's the news was all over the place. And we had VIPs coming in from the Pentagon all the time, coming in because everybody wanted to see the wreckage, and they were doing investigations. So everybody, but also at the same time, that fire kind of brought everybody together, on that ship. Sailors always talk about oh, my command's the worst, blah, blah, blah. But it still hurts when you see your ship burned down. You still have some kind of sense of pride about it. And so we were all on the host teams together and did all these missions and everything inside the ship. It kind of brought everybody together because we all went through it together, just like a deployment. So it was our thing. I think it brought, especially with my sailors, because I developed a huge bond with my sailors, specifically a couple of the guys, because I didn't trust other people to go into the ship. I knew my guys. I knew them from my host team. I specifically grabbed them for whatever we had to do because I knew they were good.
Yeah.
So, but it was, I would say it was no different than it was there was a lot of stuff going on, but it wasn't any different than a normal command as far as rumor mill stuff.
Yeah. Now I could assume the aftermath of all that with the press and everything like that, that stuff could affect your somebody's mental health too, just going through all the process, dealing with investigations and all that stuff. Just, damn, am I going to say the one thing that I'm going to get caught up for? Hey, I might have put my SCBA on wrong,
I went through 2 4-hour investigations with NCIS and JEX. I must have been in there 30 different times. And it was like a bunch of captains, NCIS agents, JAG officers, and they sat down there with the instruction and they wanted to know every single thing I did. Like, what color was the hose? How often did you relieve your nozzleman? Like, what, just everything. And I thought, like, you bring up a good point. Like, I was kind of traumatized after that because I was like, if I was worried, I was at like 16, 17 years at the point. I was like, what if I say the wrong thing? And then I end up going to court martial or whatever because I did something wrong. I was like, dude, I'm not even like, I'm just an AS. I'm not a firefighter. Like, I mean, sailors are firefighters, but like, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
Like it was, so that was very stressful. And, you know, they did it to everybody, but like I had so much exposure on that ship that I was, you know, I felt like I was getting pressed, but I just told the truth. I told them what I knew to the best of my knowledge. And
yeah, that aftermath is crazy, Tish. Like I remember when I was a junior, so like a second class, and no, first class actually. So I go into, and I might have told this story in the past, so I'm gonna make it short. I go into a space, it's dark. It's like, so what we're doing is we were moving light fixtures out of a space, right? So I go into a dark space, and since we were moving light fixtures out the space, we got our flashlights aimed at the overhead because we looking for the light fixture. So as soon as we walk in the door, we looking for the light fixture. So we got our flashlights aimed at the overhead. Before I continue this story, Justin, you familiar with explosion-proof flashlights? The black ones with the yellow, the black flashlights that's on like every Navy ship with the little yellow.
Oh yeah,
on the top. Yeah. So they explosion. How bright would you consider that lens to be?
If they're working,
yeah, they not the brightest, right? They pretty dim. Compare that flashlight to a cell phone flashlight. I think a cell phone flashlight has that flashlight beat, right? So
yes,
I'm looking in the overhead and I got my cell phone flashlight and I'm aimed at the overhead. I walk in a space and the deck grate is like removed, right? This is a YP. I'm working at the Naval Academy. One of the little deck grates are removed, but they don't got no rope, nothing there. They just removed it because they was doing some work in the bilge. So I fall into the bilge, right? I fall, I tear, this is how I injured my knee. I tear my MCS, my PCS, and my lateral meniscus. I fall into the bilge. So they go do and I left. I just went straight to the hospital. I ain't tell nobody nothing, right? But they go do the after injury, like kind of like safety report. And they like, well, so I tell them the same story. And this what came out of it. They like, well, why was you using your cell phone flashlight? It was like, why was you using your cell phone flashlight? I'm like, yo, this is like, so I was wrong. Right? I was fucked up for this, right? Not that the deck grate was removed and, none of that. I was, fucked up. Now I'm injured for life for using my cell phone flashlight. So next time, I'll know to use explosion-proof flashlight that's dimly lit and that's not going to get the fucking job done. Yeah. So that's why I asked you that, because a lot of times, like when we throw caution to the wind and we do like kind of what's like in our nature to do. Like we just saw this episode gonna come out a long time after, but recently like a sailor like saved 2 people from a burning building, right? I think some people probably saw that. Like, but a sailor, he saved 2 people, a grandma and a kid, I think our mom and a kid. And he was talking about like in the aftermath, like when he looked at the video, like how close he was to the smoke and how dangerous it, really could have been, but he just wasn't thinking about it at the time. Mm-hmm. So then we do these post, reports with people that really wasn't there. You know what I mean? They were like in their office waiting to be assigned with an investigation, so then they come out and they like point all these deficiencies out, like,
yeah.
So I could see how nervous, you could be in that time. All right. So now so when do you leave the BHR?
I think it was February or March of 21.
And it's decom. You leave when it's decommissioned, right?
No, I left like right before it decom. I think it decommed in like April.
So were people, based on your knowledge, were people like getting orders to other commands, or were they going TAD? Like, how was that working?
Yeah, they were redistroing people out to. So like they called me and they're like, I went LIMDU, and then I went to LIMDU to a command on North Isle, like a LIMDU command. Mm-hmm. And then after my LIMDU, I got redistroed. But the people that were, fit for full duty, they were just getting redistroed to like the Boxer or the Essex or whatever.
Yeah. The limb-do was mental health?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you got any like long lasting like physical health injuries as well? You said you got TBI or no?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed with TBI from the blast, and then I fell. So like me and my buddy were going down this ladder well, and it pretty much like just disintegrated underneath us. Oh. And there's like the little bars that you swing off of, or at least I did all the time. Like instinctually, I like grabbed onto the bar, and like the whole ceiling came down on top of me. Damn. And I fell. So yeah, I just remember being pissed off that I was like covered in soot and everything. And my buddy like really messed up his knee, had to have surgery on his knee and everything. So
yeah. So y'all were like moving off adrenaline at this moment, because y'all are like sustaining injuries too. Like, but it's not enough time to just lay there. Like you got to get up and move.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, we were just constantly getting banged up, and it's like, I don't know. I don't even remember my thinking of why I didn't stop. I just wanted to keep going. Like,
and where were you going?
So at that time, we had to do assessments of the spaces. So after the fire and after we dewatered everything, we did assessments of all the spaces. And the problem is that there was no tack marks because they all got burned up. So like there was a few people that were really good. I was one of them that knew the spaces and kind of figured out. So we pretty much like drew the whole ship in spaces on like paper to get tack marks, and then like relabel everything. And then we had to like lay up all the gear on the ship. And we eventually like ended up issuing out all this gear from our ship to other commands, like for like XREPs and stuff.
Were you still in comms with like a locker or anybody?
Yeah. Okay. We had scene leaders. We had a command and control in the well deck, and we would report down there. We had comms. We would report when we would go on air. There were certain areas that you had to be on air, and we would like mark them with like glow sticks and stuff. So there was still like hot spots around the ship, like all the time.
So were people?
So I don't. Oh, I was going to say. So I was at Surf Pack at the time, and I remember it. I don't remember exactly when, but it was sometime after to where we found out that we lost the ship. Like ain't no coming back. At what point did you like see what you see and be like, nah, or did you ever be like, nah, this is it. The ship isn't coming back.
There was parts of the ship that were actually in decent shape, like the aft part of the ship. They weren't that bad, and then down below on aft, everything was pretty much intact. Now the whole island was completely like caved in and destroyed, and then up forward was destroyed too. So that I had no idea, because I'm not an analyst. Like I wasn't at that level to make that determination of whether, but I was working on my at-will qualification at the time, because we were preparing to go to Pascagoula in case they did salvage, like try to rebuild the ship. And I was like, I'm going to be part of that crew. And I was working on my at-will qualification at the time. So I was like, and then they determined that they weren't going to do it. But they disqualified me from my at-will qualification because of mental health. And that's kind of when I was like, I'm just going to go limb-do at this point, because this is ridiculous. I might as well be limb-do.
So you limb-do, right? And how is that experience for you?
Well, it was COVID, so it was backed up. I didn't like. I was saying, like, I wasn't even seen by a provider until after my first limb-do period. It was crazy. And then it was all telehealth stuff. It was phone musters, but we had like a limb-do office or a limb-do division at my command. And it was so crowded with people. And we would phone muster, but then like we would have muster days. And they would be like, we wouldn't muster. We would like phone muster for the whole week, but then Fridays we'd have uniform inspections. And I was like, oh, let me inspect these sailors. And there was like 75 sailors I had to inspect. I was like, I'm going to tear these kids. I'm going to tear these sailors up. And they're going like, these sailors, all they were doing was phone mustering for weeks, months. And then they have to go wear like their NSUs or dress uniforms. They had their ribbons on the wrong side, white socks, like had wrong rank. Like I had a muster sheet with the rank and they had like their old rank on there. Feel like,
oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't know. Like, I'm sorry, I can't have that. It's at the time, it was 2021. Like you have YouTube, you have Google, like that excuse doesn't fly to me anymore. I didn't know. You have ChatGPT now that will tell you uniform regulations.
Yeah.
Like it was just, but you know, I'm so big on uniforms and like, you know, from the Blue Angels, like all these special duties. So like, I love uniform inspections because I'll find every little thing that's wrong with your uniform. And I, you know, I'm not a jerk about it though. Like I will just let you know like, hey, you need to correct this. And I'll probably mess with you a little bit. Like I'll roast you in front of everybody. Like, bro, how do you have your ribbons on the wrong side? Like, that's
pretty bad.
How are you and you next to him didn't correct him? Like, so that was fun. That kind of like broke up the monotony and like the hard times in COVID with being limbo and everything. So that was a cool part.
So they had fun with it too. Even though you were serious, they had fun with it too, right?
Yeah, like if they were complete like dirt bags, I would pull them into the office and yell at them from chief or like have some kind of like mini DRB. But yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Okay. So last BHR, kind of back to BHR question is, any stories outside of yours that you heard that's like, that you could share that's like super interesting, crazy, something unique?
Outside of mine? I mean, I have more stories I can tell you.
More stuff?
When I went in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I could talk for a while. So there was one. So I told you earlier that I went into the ship to help out and I went to my shop and got dressed in somebody else's FRVs. Well, I was wearing my LeBrons, like the LeBron 9s, and I left them in there. And so I'm like, we had to evacuate the ship. I was like, I'm never going to get my LeBrons back. They're like $260 shoes. And like, so later that night, I was up for investigator team. And so I was team leader for investigator and I mustered with the scene leader. And we were doing joint operations with other sailors from other commands now. And I had some deck seamen from one of the destroyers. She's only been in for 6 months and we were about to go in on the Bonham Richard, which was currently on fire. Like, I don't remember her name, but man, she was she killed it. She did such a good job. And so we had to muster. We had no way to get onto the ship besides the well deck. And in order to get into the hangar bay from the well deck, you have to climb a vertical ladder, 2 vertical trunks all the way up into the hangar bay because there was no other access. And so we took off our gear, hauled it up one at a time, and then climbed up and then went the other one. And we had to do our investigation and look for hot spots and like where the fire. I was like, hey, we're near my shop. I was like, we're going to make a pit stop real quick. Yeah. And she's like, okay. And I was like, of course, like the fire wasn't in that area, but since the whole ship was on fire, I just straight kicked this door down. I did a running drop, boom, and the door flew open, and sure enough, my LeBrons are right there, and I was like, yes, and I was like, hey, I want to put one of these in your FFE. And she like opened it up and I like stuffed it in there and then I stuffed the other one in mine. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, now we're going to leave. And then, like we did, it was towards the end of our investigation anyway. So like we're about done with air. And
I wonder how she would retell
so
that
we
story.
went back.
I would love to hear her version of this.
I would love to meet her. Hey, if you're listening to this, like send us a message because like she was so awesome. And like the other two on my investigation team, one of them was kind of freaking out because it was the scene when we got up there was like unreal, and she was having a hard time dealing with that. And I think they did like a little round and then kind of left because one of them was not having it. But the seaman I was with, she killed it. We went to all of our spaces, reported back, and she had my shoes.
Yeah. So. Hey, so all of these.
Hopefully, I'll get LeBron to sign it one day.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be dope.
All of these,
that'd be cool.
All of these moments and all of these like kind of scenarios eventually wound up affecting your mental health. When do you realize that it affected you? Because I'm assuming you're still running off adrenaline, you still running off kind of just pure energy, shock and awe. Like, when do you finally realize, right? And whether it's weeks later, months later, hours later, like, damn, this kind of fucked me up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. So like, when you're at work, you kind of operate on an adrenaline and everything, especially like on deployment, you're always at that up tempo, like, what's expected. But when you get home and you don't know how to turn it off, and that's when it becomes a problem. I had a newborn son. I had my wife, and, she could tell that there was something wrong with me. And, I was being irritable. I wasn't getting any sleep at home. I would wake up in the middle of the night, like jolt out of bed. Just not normal stuff. Yeah. And, my wife has been so supportive with me through all of this. And so, I knew it was time for me to seek help, because I knew this wasn't normal. And, I was having these nightmares every night, just replaying. There was one specific image of when I was a host team member with Fed Fire, and we were the water was up to our boots. It was you couldn't see down the P-way, and the ceiling and both the bulkheads were on fire, embers glowing. And that image is burned into my head, and I can't get it out of my head. And it's just, again, that moment where I thought I was walking through hell. It was literally this is what hell is like. I'm sludging through this water and everything is on fire around me. And again, I was I don't know if I'm going to die or not. We were going to an active fire to set up a drone and destroy a bunch of classified material. But I was I don't know what's about to happen. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So after that, reliving that stuff over and over again, I was I need to talk to somebody about this.
Yeah. Because those investigations that they re-traumatize you, because you got to rehash your trauma.
Out, yeah.
Are you still getting mental health services and things like that?
I am. So I'm in the middle of the IDES med board right now. So I just finished all my VA appointments, and so I hit 20 years in March. So by the time I get my findings back, I should be past 20 to get pension and then disability. But I've been doing for the last 4 years, I've been doing therapy for PTSD. So they have EMDR and talk therapy, group therapy, exposure therapy. I've been doing it all. And it's great to be able to have access to all this medical care. It takes a long time to get it started, but once you get the appointments going, it's great. And to be able to get paid and still go to these appointments and not have to use PTO for that, it's been a blessing. So
yeah. And the last, I know one of the things we talked about when I talked to you on the phone was that you're going to be retiring. And you said you took the exam about 10 times. For the last 10 years or something. You said you took the exam a lot.
Yeah, I have it. I've always made board.
Yeah, always made board. And but you're going to be retiring as a first class, right? Or is it another shot for? Well, right now you're just, I guess, waiting to be boarded out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could take the exam in January, but I might be out when results come out. So,
and you really just content.
But that was a hard.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hard pill to swallow, and that was something I had to talk about in therapy because my whole, my mom was a chief and my dad was a master chief. So that was my goal, is to put on khakis. And like, I grew up in the goat locker, like back when they had beer and stuff in there. So like they would take me there as a little kid. So like I knew about it. And so like that was a big goal of mine. And so everything was tracking, and then the fire happened. And then I decided to put my mental health first and my family first and my education first and make that a priority. And I had to kind of accept that I might get out as a first class and not make chief. And that was hard for me to like accept, because my entire career, I've been so focused on making chief.
So what's next? You said your education. What's next for you?
Well, I got my bachelor's in technical management with the focus in project management. And then I'm finishing my MBA right now. So I want to get some kind of finance job. I want to wear a suit and go work downtown San Diego and make money, make fun coupons.
Nice. You know we do the do better. You know we do the do better.
Oh, so,
yeah. I need to do better from you, man. What you got?
Good luck. All right. I got two. I prepared myself, and I got a book that I've been reading too. So
nice.
All right. So my do better is, so professionally, my do better is to be a better instructor. So right now I teach process improvement classes, Lean Six Sigma and theory of constraints. And I've always been a really good instructor. I teach jujitsu out in town. I was a C-school instructor prior. But this is new stuff to me, and it's not my typical job. So it's been very difficult for me. And so my do better is to be a better instructor, to be able to teach junior sailors this stuff, because I think it's very important to learn this stuff and apply it and get rid of that whole mindset of that's the way we've always done it. Like, no, let's think of better, efficient ways to do processes to eliminate waste in our everyday events. And then my personal one is just to be a better husband and father, because my wife has been supporting me through all this for the last 4 years. And, it's time for me now to focus on home life and being there for my kids and my wife and supporting her. She's going to start her doctorate here in a little bit. So
nice.
So yeah,
I owe my wife so much. I owe her so much, man. She really take care of me all the time. Like even like right now, even like just doing a podcast. Like she might come in the house like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to start the podcast and really mess me up. But I mean, outside of that, like I owe her. Like she do so much. She take care of so much. Never any issues when it comes to spending money. Like nothing. You know what I mean? So she's incredible, man. So yeah, trust me, I definitely know the feeling. Before we get to the book, I want to shout somebody out. Your mom, man. Your mom was incredible. Just from like the way you started this, like she seemed super pivotal in like making you who you are today. And you seem dope, man. You seem super humble. Like you seem like none of this was a big deal. You know what I mean? It's like super cool just hearing that. Like, what's your book? What book you got?
So right now, I read a lot of corporate finance books, which is super nerdy, but I'm trying to set myself up because it's going to be a big transition to me to go into finance, because it's not something I do. But I'm reading Speak Like a CEO by Suzanne Bates right now. So like presenting and talking, public speaking, all that stuff. So it's interesting. It makes me, you're formally trained in for instructor school. So NETC, I believe that's what it is. So you kind of get like, you're told how to do, instruction the Navy way. And so I want to kind of build on that and get used to talking and doing briefs like in a civilian sector.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to flip the script real quick. You got any questions for us? I know that's probably putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I got some questions.
Shit. All right, let's go.
I got some questions. So top 3 sides for Thanksgiving.
Say that again.
Top 3 sides?
Top 3 sides, because everybody does turkey or ham. What's your top 3 sides for Thanksgiving?
Mac and cheese. And it got to be real good mac and cheese. Some good greens. And then dressing. I just learned how to make dressing probably like 2 years ago, but I love it with the cranberry sauce. And it can be the cranberry sauce that come in the can with the lines in it. Or
with the lines in it.
with the lines in it from the can, or just whatever cranberry sauce. It don't matter, but the dressing has to have cranberry sauce. Those are my top 3.
So mac and cheese is the main dish. So that's turkey.
That's like the turkey.
Mac and cheese is the main dish. Let's get that right. That baked mac and cheese is the main dish. Now, I mean, baked mac and cheese, of course, right? A really good thing of like greens, with collard greens or whatever. Greens with like the turkey, either like the turkey butt or like some pork or something.
The smoked turkey.
Like that's like in that, like that juice dripping into the mac and cheese a little bit is just magical, man.
Yep.
Like I love that connection. It's like a symbiotic connection, you know what I mean?
It is.
And then the cranberry sauce, man. You know, but again, not the homemade. I'm not a homemade cranberry sauce guy. Get the can, the Ocean Spray. Let's hit that can opener. Let's plop that right out. Slice that thing in them round slices.
I don't know what it is.
You know, let's get it going, man. I'm not a big turkey person. I'm not big, like your turkey got to be, I think turkey is dry. So your turkey got to be really, you know, your turkey got to be really good. Like I'd rather get turkey legs and turkey wings, rice, the whole turkey. But yeah, that's me right there. What about you?
Oh, definitely the mac and cheese. I like the cranberry sauce. Yes, that kind of adds like the sweetness to the whole ensemble. And then I love that. This is gonna sound corny, but the green bean casserole off the back of off the back of the can. Like, man, I don't know what it is, but I just like it so much.
Well, all right, what's the best day? Hey, for the listeners, I just let y'all know now. It's close to Thanksgiving while we recording. It ain't gonna be close to Thanksgiving when this episode get released. But
so their mouth gonna be watering all the way back over
damn Christmas, right? We got some episodes in the tuck. But what's the best day to eat the food? Is it the day of or the day after?
Oh, definitely the day after.
Man. Them dinner rolls, you make little sandwiches, little sliders. It's crazy.
Or you go to the gym. You go to the gym and do a really hard workout, and then you got
right back to it, man. We go hard. Like I be like, man, I be like tracking with my wife. Like, yo, how long is this gonna last? You know, so this one the last 3 days. This will give us. We got 2 days on this, and we going in, man. I had another question about that. Oh, do y'all double up? Do y'all double up events? Like you ever like, all right, we're gonna go your mom's, then we're gonna go my dad's, and then y'all ever do that?
Oh no, we do the Friendsgiving. So we got a Friendsgiving to go to tomorrow. Like my family lives in Texas, so her parents moved out here, so they're gonna come over our house, and then that's gonna be it. I'm not a social person.
Yeah.
So we'll do Friendsgiving, but I'm not. No, I'm gonna watch my Cowboys lose, and that'll be it. And then I'm gonna go to bed sad. So.
Yeah. I got a problem with the 2 events in one day thing. My wife like, yo, if we go to your sister's house, we can stop at my dad's house first. My dad never saw the baby, you know. And I'm like, yeah, you know. But inside, I'm like, man, no, like. Because the reason being that it's like, I don't want to go there, get settled in, eat, you know.
You just want to lay out after that. Yeah.
You just want to chill after that.
Watch a game, just chill, talk, have fun, pull some board games out. I don't want to be like, all right, now see you. Let's grab the jackets. Let's get in the car. Let's drive such and such miles and let's break up somebody else's well-established situation because we wanted to go see somebody else. That's too much for me, man.
Especially with a baby, because it ain't just get up and go. You got gear that you gotta get.
Yeah, and then with my wife,
you gotta say goodbyes, and then
well, my wife is like a whole base camp pickup moving the baby. You know what I mean? We got everything. You know what I mean? You got another one for us?
Oh, what? So, proudest moment or most interesting thing in the Navy. So, like, my proudest moment in the Navy was. I did an air show at my hometown, and at the very end, you walk out to the front of your jet, and my whole family was there, all my friends from my hometown, and they announced my name, and that was the coolest moment I've ever had in the Navy. What's y'all's coolest moment? Like, most interesting experience y'all have had in the Navy?
I would say mine was actually just my entire tour being at ESG7 in Okinawa, where we would embark on the BHR. So my first and only ship experience, which I spent a lot of time fighting trying to get the ships, and then I finally got to ESG7. That was as close as I could have been able to get my entire career. But just being on the ship and, I just love being embarked on that. Every time I had a chance to go on there, I was trying to be on there. And then heloing from one ship to another with the Admiral was like dope to like just be in a helo and go from one. It was just pretty cool. And then I'm rolling with the Admiral. So it's like I'm part of the VIP. As I'm rolling, I felt super important. Like it was just, I felt like I was in a movie and I was just like, this is the president and I'm rolling on with the president. So it was pretty dope. Like, I think that's been my coolest moment.
Yo, this is the hardest question ever, man. I'm gonna just be straight with you. Hardest question. It's so many moments, I'm gonna narrow this down to like 2, but it's so many moments, right? A whole lot, right? So anybody who I had a moment with, please don't feel weird about this or bad. But I had a mentee, like when I was at E5, I had a mentee who, when he came to the ship, he was rough around the edges, I wanna say. Mm-hmm. But I would say more misunderstood. Like he was just misunderstood. Like he was, I understood him because he came from a place like I came from. He grew up a way like I grew up. He listened to the same music as me. He dressed the same way as me, but he had like way more Jordans than I did. And he drove the same kind of cars as me, but he had a much better car than me at the time, right? But he was an engineer like me, junior seller. And I just remember him first coming and like it seeming like the system was about to not like see him, right? It was seeming like the system wasn't going to see him. And I remember just grabbing him up, man, and like having like conversations with him and like talking to him. And the reason why I'm saying him, because he's like patient zero for me as far as being a mentor. And he, just watching him just turn around, like he wound up getting like a junior seller of the year, like a little bit after I left. He wound up, making chief. Like I got to see him make chief. I got to see him like, blossom so well, and then even like if I talk to people, and it's the test, this the legitimacy test, I think, even for anybody, right? And I even want to call myself to the carpet, but for the most part, if you talk to people that people experience time with and the people say, hey, no, that's a good dude. You know what I mean? If that's how you know. So, I remember running to somebody and they was like, yo, I know him. He a good dude. He's a workaholic. And I'm like, yo, that's my guy. That's my guy. That's the guy. And it's years later, I'm like, he kept the teachings, man. Yeah, Grasshopper kept the teachings. So I love him. If I call him today, he'll answer. If he called me today, I'm going to answer. Like he just one of my guys. So that, right? But that's that's also kind of like an example for me for like every other situation I've been like this for me in my career, right? The reason why that's so significant because he was patient zero and I was a second class. And so it's been many of those. But outside of that one, the second one I'm gonna say, believe it or not, man, it's the work that we do with this podcast, man. Like the places that is going, the people that is touching and reaching. And I know 100%, like I'm 100% sure every episode ain't for everybody. Like the episode we just released, even though, this is going to be like a few episodes after, but like Dr. Cordell, I know that episode ain't going to be for everybody. Everybody not going to like that episode, right? We might lose a couple listeners because of that episode, but it's called Permission to Speak Freely. And he was able to come in and speak freely about different things, different topics and stuff like that. And then that episode wound up being like a mandatory listen at, Naval Postgraduate School a day after we released it, So that's incredible, man. And that's not the first time somebody at a school or something like that was like, hey, we got people listening to your episodes. Even when Chiefs, hit me up like, hey, I had my division listen to this when we was at training, or we listened to this at Seller 360. We not like no partnership with the Navy or nothing like that. Just a bunch of people just giving our truth, like our like legitimate lives. Like none of this shit made up, nothing. You know what I mean? So that, and like, it assured me that, whatever this Kool-Aid that we were making, that I was making throughout the years, is good. It's a good little blend. You know what I mean? Like it is, because I always question that. Like, because I'm weird. I'm not like other people. I'm different. I do shit different. And I always question, like, am I the only fucking person that do things this different? But I'm not. Like, we get people hit us up like, damn, like that touched me and stuff like that. It's a lot more people that do it through text messages. I wish y'all wouldn't. Like, put that shit on social media. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. It is what it is. But I think that this has been a big reigniter for, not saying my flame ever died down, but just as you stay in long enough, and you get older, your fire is a little less hot. You know what I mean? It's just time. You've been around, you kind of done everything, you know how to do this. This keeps that flame lit. Like, I always got to learn something, always got to know something. Then there's also the challenge of, like, if one of my young sellers like listen to the pod, and they like, damn, Senior don't never talk about this. Like, he just only talk about this shit on the podcast. So that's another thing. It's like, so you got to show up as that same person too. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, this has been one of my favorite experiences.
Nice.
It was a good question, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great question. I got something for you. Let's go. Let's play a little game.
Okay.
And we play this game every now and then, but you seem like the perfect candidate. And we're going to get up out of here.
I know. I like this.
Because my stomach, for the listeners, I'm sick. We done took breaks. Y'all probably see me drink some medicine. I ain't going to plug to people, but, my stomach is crazy. I got a little headache and everything. And if y'all know me, I do not want headaches ever. Like, this is like the first headache I had in a while. All right. So I'm going to just give you two different names of two different things, and you just pick your preference. I know you had a unique career, so some of you just might not know, and we could skip it. But
right.
But pick which one you prefer. PTS or Seaway?
Seaway.
BRS or High 3?
Oh, High 3.
Beard or clean shave?
Well, I can't grow a beard, but I prefer clean shave. But hey, if you want to rock a beard,
you could have a beard, would you?
So I did get to grow a beard out when I was IA, and it was terrible. Like, it smelled like breakfast, and it was itchy because it was so hot out. Like, I'm just not a beard person, but I'm all about and totally advocate people growing beards. Like, I'm all about it. I support it.
Let's do it, man.
100%.
While we bullshitting, I found a gray hair in my nostril right before we started recording. And I got really mad. Talk about being pissed off. Master Chiefs in the duty section are out.
Ooh, that's a good one. I just thought they go home, right? Even if they're in duty section.
That's that carrier life. Even though them carriers, man.
Oh, man.
Everybody go home on them carriers. That shit got put out like my first day on a carrier. Hey, we got to stop going home and not coming back and missing training that night. People was going to mask for going home. People disappearing on carriers, man. Black rank tab or camo?
I like the black ones. It's easier to see. I already can't see. So, like, having to squint, it just makes it easier. I like the black tabs.
Navy Toms or AFN?
Oh, AFN all day. Dude, when you're on deployment and they play the movies and the football games and stuff, I'm all about AFN. That was a lifesaver on deployments.
LS or SK?
Oh, how about AK? AK. My dad was my dad was at AK SK.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
It's funny because I already know your answer to this. DSET or Decade?
Decent.
Crank
Decent.
or FSA?
Oh, man. Cranking. I cranked in the galley.
Yeah, same deal, different words. Cordon Bleu or Manicotti?
Oh, the cordon bleu. They're called the hamsters, right?
Yep.
The hamsters.
No, you are the only one that does not appreciate the cordon.
I had one bad experience and I could never go back. And then, like I said, I probably said it a bunch of times before, that when I went to like a real like fancy restaurant, that shit ain't look nothing like them hamsters that they had on the shit.
Oh no.
What was you about to say?
No, I love manicotti, but I had one where it was just the shell was not cooked.
Yeah.
So you just like crunched into it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm done with this.
So my cordon bleu experience, my first experience I ever had with cordon bleu was at, I think, boot camp or A school. It was in Great Lake. And I ate a piece. And it's cheese in the middle, right? It's like chicken on the outside, cheese.
Or like on the outside, but in the pastry.
Yeah. It was cold. The shit was cold. And I never even want to attempt to eat that shit again.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tupac or regular coveralls?
Oh, man. Those, I haven't worn I see the Tupacs on base all the time, and they look good.
Yeah, I like it.
So I saw a sailor in the Starbucks, and he had his shoes shined up too. They look nice.
Yeah,
I wish I was, able to. I'm not on a ship anymore. I won't be, but those are nice uniforms. They look good, and you can like go out in town in them and stuff too.
Utilities are type 3s.
Oh, utilities all day.
Okay, so utilities won out for this one. But what about utilities or dungarees?
Oh, utilities. I used to starch my utilities and put the nice crease in them.
Oh, yeah.
Like they looked so good. But I used to put my mom's nameplates on her dungarees because you had like the ink pen to put your name and then the crow. So I used to do it. She like would make me do her uniform when she got a new one.
Oh,
She got you ready, man.
Yes, she did.
Seller 360 or CPO 365?
Oh, CPO 365. I missed that, actually.
Yeah.
I miss CPO 365.
That's what's up. Curl up or plank?
Oof. I love planks.
Yeah,
planks? Yeah, I like planks.
Yeah, this been my worst plank. This been my worst plank year, man. I usually just put that Meek Mill on and I can make it through, man. It wasn't like that for me this year, man. I had to give up on it. I'm gonna be back next year. I promise I am. Command picnic or holiday party?
Oh, holiday party. That's when everybody acts wild.
Yeah. That shit fuel the stories up to the next one.
I'll bring my wife and we'll get some drinks and I'll just watch and see what happens. And it's like, as soon as the bar opens up, people start acting crazy and it's just entertainment.
Yeah, people come outside, man. They take their Navy costumes off. When I was a junior seller, that's all I used to think. Like, damn, you took your Navy costume off. Small boy, or this kind of I guess this is a gimme for you. But
it's a surface course.
Small boy or big deck?
Oh, big deck all day.
Yeah. IET or watch section?
Oh, IET. I was IET on the Nimitz, so
that's what's up.
It was fun times.
Pizza and wings or surf and turf?
Oh, pizza and wings.
Yeah.
Northeast. Pizza and wings and hoagies, right?
Hoagies, man. Them hoagies, man. I was trying to explain somebody what water ice was, and she was like, "You talking about a smoothie?" I said, "No,
Rita's water
Rita's.
ice.
Ooh, that Rita's.
Italian ice.
Water ice.
Yep.
Water.
Yep, there we go.
And then, who was the ice? Mr. Frosty or Mr. Frosty? Did y'all have those in your neighborhood?
Hell yeah. With the
it was in Jersey. I think it was like Jersey or Philly.
Yeah, with that song.
Yeah. But he had like the little cone head thing on. Yeah.
Ice cream and all that. Yeah, I remember him. It was like some racist stuff came out about that song a while ago, so I kind of tried to block it out my mind a little. To that Friday duty or Sunday duty?
Oof. I'd rather have Friday duty. Because you at least get one day off. That Sunday duty's brutal. Or I guess you get one day off with Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I'd rather have Friday duty.
Okay. Time and service advancement or the exam?
I would say time and service for sure.
MAP or make it off the exam?
MAP.
The Blue Angels or the BHR?
Blue Angels all day.
Shore duty or deployment?
Oof. I loved being out to sea. I loved it. And I wish I would have went on deployment on the BHR. Yeah. But I had some really good shore duty too. I deployed 3 times. I haven't been deployed since. I loved being deployed. That was so much fun.
Yeah, deployment.
I'm going to say deployment. deployment it is.
Yeah, deployment. And my best deployments were earlier in my career. My last deployment was like a COVID deployment. I did an LCS deployment, and I moved around more than the ship. Like, I think I moved more than the ship when I did an LCS deployment. So, but hey, man, that's it, man. Did we miss anything?
I think we hit everything.
Yeah, this is good, man.
Yeah, it was
really, really good. Hey, like I said earlier, man, I got no doubt that whatever you do next, you're gonna be a great leader at it. Just like I hear a lot of leadership, in you. It's unfortunate that the Navy wasn't able to, see you, as a chief, but that's not as unfortunate for you because you had a really good career, you had some really good experiences, and you're able to influence people the same. The rank is just another thing. It's just another kind of thing. Like, it don't really stop what we do, the jobs that we do and stuff like that. But you would have been a good kind of like commercial for the rank, like a good selling point. So other people could be like, hey, I want to be a chief because I want to be like ASC Kramer. You know what I mean? And that's what I think chiefs should be, is like people that like become examples for people to want to emulate. Like I said, shout out to your parents, shout out to your mom. Your mom is amazing. She sounds amazing. She raised a really decent, son, and super humble, stuff like that, man. So just keep in touch with me. I'm anything you need from me, man. I'm here for you. So thanks, man.
Yeah,
Cool.
and
Appreciate
I just want to thank you for coming on and being so transparent and so open, especially talking about something that, was a traumatic experience that you're still trying to heal from and still going to therapy in, and it's still very real for you. So thank you for coming out and, just sharing with us and sharing with our listeners. A lot of people would love to know that perspective of like what was going on. And when I saw that we were going to be talking to you, I kept being like that name sounds so familiar, but I can't figure out where it's from. But I hate telling people, oh, your name sounds familiar, because being an LN, they freak out and they like, oh, no, I ain't never been in trouble. Nobody wants the LN to remember their name. And then you start talking about the BHR, and I'm like, that's where it's from. It's from reading that big ass 3-volume. We had the investigation in like 3 big ass binders. And I remember I think I'm remembering your, not really remembering your statement, but just remembering your name from reading through it. I can't like put a pinpoint, but your name just kept sticking out to me. And it's probably because of the great job that you did while you were on there. So thank you for that. That was awesome. And to continue to go back in there, the bravery that you showed going back multiple times. So that shows who you are. And like you said, you trained for this and you were at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Lucky
Appreciate
you were
Thank you.
on duty.
Right. Right.
Lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Well,
I got one.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, before you go, I got one last question. You got a favorite PTSF episode?
That one that y'all just released was pretty awesome. It definitely gave me a lot of perspective on things, on the beards, and like even the John C. Stennis. Like, I didn't even know that. That's wild.
Yeah.
So that's the last one I listened to. Making my way through all the old ones. So,
hey, man. Again, thanks for your support, man. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.